relate to IP conflicts, URL, or routing issue. So let's go with the IP conflict, and this is double information. So if you get IP conflict, never call again because it's a double info. Okay, so IP conflict. Let me give you scenario with an image so that you get the understanding well. So what I'm saying is we've done DHCP configuration on Cisco routers where we exclude, let's say, 1 to 10. It means that the DHCP should start from 11 to, let's say, 254 if it's /24, right? We all agree with me on that. Now what the desktop people do is, let's say this PC is supposed to have a static IP. Now they will not ask you to give them the right range. Then they will be trying their luck. So they will use something 11 to 254. It's so funny when you are repeating yourself. So they will give you something within what? 11 to 254. And then when they give themselves the IP to be like 12.12, forgetting that the DHCP can assign the same IP to this PC. So this is static assigned, this is a DHCP assigned, but they have the same IP because the DHCP server will not care about the static assign. It will still issue the same IP. So they are going to be in conflict. So how do you resolve that? When you get that ticket, tell them to off that device that they are reporting as a conflict and see whether you can ping this IP. You see that it will be reachable. That gives you indication that is available on the two IPs are available on the network. You can also verify by doing show IP DHCP conflicts. And that will also give you all IPs which are in conflict on the router. And then you will know specific how to deal with them. Now what you do is, because this has been off, you trace this device. And when you get to know this device, how you will resolve it is this. If this is supposed to be a static IP, give them the correct range. If this is also supposed to be a static IP, give them the correct range and let the DHCP keep the IP address. But how will you know that? What I tell them is do a screenshot of the IP assignment on both sides. Do a screenshot and send it to me and let me see whether it's a static assign or it's a DHCP assign. Then based on that, I will tell you your static, give this IP. DHCP is fine. That is the way you resolve what? IP conflict. Then the second scenario is going to be URL. And URL is firewall related, but they will report to you as a network engineer. So what it means is it's going to be an application where a port is blocked. So that will be a domain name. So you have to find out the IP address of the domain. And once you get the IP address, you can check it on your call. Just type the IP address as this to see whether the port is open. And if you don't see the message as open, it will show you open. It means that this IP can talk on the network with this port. Then it means that they have to open that port on the firewall. If it's 443, you test that same too. If they sometimes too they don't know that, you can ask them, is it port 80 or port 443 or any other port? So they can give you any other port that they think is supposed to talk to. Then you test it. Then you tell them, no, this is not a network related issue. This is a firewall related issue. So reach out to the firewall guys to support you on that, so that you don't get to know this, worry yourself with this. But let's assume scenario where the port opens. When the port opens, then it means that it's an application related issue. So let them reach out to the application team to see whether the application is working fine on the server in terms of that. Or sometimes maybe the server is down, but the application team will know that and give you the right information to be able to solve. So that relates to URL. Then let's go to routing issue, which will be the last aspect of all the scenario you can get in real life. And routing is always going to be in a scenario like this. You have a remote office. Users over here want to have access to something at the data center, and they are telling you that this routing is always going to come from remote office. Or we can't access this server, we can't talk to this one, whatever the case may be. What you have to know is you do your ping test, it will not be reachable. Then you ask them, have you ever communicate to that server before? They say no. Why do you want to communicate to it? You have to get details, because I've seen scenario where they have two PCs. This PC can give them access, this PC cannot give them access. And then they want to misuse, they forgot that process, and they are using the wrong PC for the right application. So you ask that question, so yeah, you are right, I have to use this PC. So does it mean I can access with different PCs? You tell them yes. If it works on this one, that is what you are supposed to use. And it could be that it's a very important server, so you are not allowing everybody to have access. So you are dealing with one user. So those details, you have to get it. But if it's something that you have to allow the network, then you check your routing policy. Maybe some changes went on over the night, like network changes, and then they made a mistake with the network they introduced, and it affected the routing policy here. And in that case, you have to correct that. So that is break and fix. But if it's a new project, then you have to create a change request. Then I'm going to talk of change request in our day-to-day activities. So in that situation, you tell them what you are going to do, and that will allow the packet to communicate. But sometimes it could be ACL from the data center, where maybe there was another changes on the core switch and is denying what has been permitted. And in that situation, you have to also correct that changes on the ACL when it happens to be break and fix. Or it could be a new rule you have to permit so that they can be able to communicate to that services. So this has to do with what? Routing issue. And that will end all the possible scenarios. These are the tickets you are going to get. And the one thing you have to, before I cover to listen to your questions, I'm giving you the scenarios because I'm an engineer. But don't expect users to give you scenario like what I'm saying. Are you all getting what I'm saying? So it will be a communication issue, but they are talking different thing. So how do you know that? It's based on asking information, then you know what they are talking about. So keep in mind, you have to know the scenario and know the symptoms. Then you derive the plan. So if you are talking of not having internet or whatever, then I know it's pingable issue. Or let's say I can't have access to everything or whatever the case may be. All the scenarios that I've spoken about, then it's a pingable issue. Then you use this format to troubleshoot. Or sometimes they will say that the network is down, but it's a URL issue. It's not the whole network which is down. You get detail and say, oh, when I'm testing this server, then it's down. So I want you to understand that this scenario I've given to you is because you are technical people. Users will not report them this way, but you have to ask questions to know the right issues and know how to solve them. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, very good. So now that will end for the topic about troubleshooting. I've given you all scenario. So yes, listen to it, discuss it, have a conversation as a team. You call somebody like, let's say Yvonne, you are a network engineer. How are you going to resolve IP conflict issue? These are questions that can come to you. You are a network engineer. How are you going to resolve routing issue? These are engineers' questions. And you have to follow the flow with the examples I've given to get the right answer. Yes, Chestero.
Yeah, so Prof, my question has to do with IP conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say if someone assign a static IP
Uh-huh.
and DHCP assign the same IP.
Yes.
So you said something about offing one of the devices. So Which one are you gonna off? The static one or the DHCP one?
Or it can be any one. You just want to see if two devices are on the network. Sometimes it could be false alarm, which means that they can notice that, and after reboot, I tell them when they get the error, they should reboot and see if the error is there. So if it's there and after they off it and it's still doing that, then it means that two devices are having that issue. And there is something that engineers do, but okay, I'm going to tell you, but I will not type it. Okay, there is, okay, I will tell you, but I will not show you. Let me put it that way, and it's for good reason. There is a temporary fix on this where you can temporarily clear the error, but it will come up again. I had one student working who said there is one device always like that, and I told him, after I told him, go and watch videos I've given very well, because I've spoken about this before. What it means is the manager fixed the issue, but they come up again. So he was asking, is there any permanent solution to this? And I told him that, but I told you to off one and ping that device. If it's reachable, make sure one, all the reason for this is there are two scenarios. Either, but the common one is what I told you. Either this is DHCP and this has been static assigned, or they have statically assigned two devices with the same IP. It's not common, but that can also be possible. Do you get the point I'm making? So this is a static IP, they assign it, and another static IP, they assign the same thing. And this can be an engineer who is sleeping on the job. Sometimes they will ask the engineer, but he's not doing the proper documentation. So you give them the same IP to assign again, and then they have conflict. So that one, you don't tell them, off this one. And you say, you know what, I think there is an issue, so you use this IP, and that will resolve it. Does that help? Okay.
Yes, bro.
Okay, good. Okay, so on that note,